nog ietsie meer. Nou gesels ons met iemand wat weet hoe om te sing. Haar naam is Carla Franco en sy kuier vanmôre by ons om te gesels oor haar album Chapter 1. Welkom Carla.
Môre.
Chapter 1.
Yep. Dis die naam van my album.
Dis 'n voorreg om jou vanmôre hier by ons te hê. Vertel ons bietjie Carla, kom ons begin voor ons by Chapter 1 begin.
Ja.
Kom ons begin by hoe kom ons vandaan? Hoe het ons hier gekom?
So, ek het al vir 'n paar jare gesing. I've been writing music for quite a while. And I've been releasing my own singles here and there. And I just decided ek wil nou 'n album skryf en maak wat true to who I've been, but also just sort of showing my growth within my music. So ek dink die main doel agter Chapter 1 was, it was literally just a matter of how do I create music that's true to me as an artist, but that's also music that I like to listen to. How do I incorporate the artists that I listen to into my sound? So that's really been the driving force behind Chapter 1. And because it's a new sound, that's why it's called Chapter 1. Sort of this new journey in my music career.
Wow. Yeah. Carla, you're actually originally from Bloemfontein and then you moved to Johannesburg. Yeah. And I want to know, what has been the biggest adjustment since moving to Johannesburg?
Well, I've lived overseas, so I don't think anything can challenge your adaptation skills more than that. But I think what I love about Joburg, it's kind of like a love-hate relationship, right? Which I love that it's a city and there's always something to do. But then I also really miss die platteland. I miss the farm, I miss sort of the quietness of everything. So that's been a little bit difficult, missing that sort of plaas, soos al die Afrikaans mense en al die braaid en alles. But yeah, so I think that's been probably the most challenging. But I love Joburg. I love Bloem, but I love Joburg. So for me, I think I won either way.
Jy sê nou, jy was nie buiteland. Wat het jy in die buiteland gedoen?
Ek het actually gaan onderwys. Ek was 'n onderwyser. Ek's eintlik 'n onderwyser aside from my music. So ek het actually China toe gegaan om te teach.
Wow.
So ja, ek het dit maar probeer.
How long?
Vir 'n jaar. Ja, so
Okay.
ek het dit gedoen en ja, so ek het dit geloof. I feel like if you can do China, you can do anything. So Joburg for me was a breeze. I was like, I got this. Everything's fine. So yeah.
I just want to mention, earlier you said, when we started, you said you've been writing music for a very long time and you released single after single and you thought, okay, well, you're now at a place where you want to release a whole album and stuff. And I did read your first song that you did, you were in grade 7. You were 13 years old when you released it. That's unbelievable. That is so young and I think it's incredible.
Thank you.
So I do want to know, what was that song about? Because also I think people often write and release music depending on what phase they're in.
Yeah.
And if you released something when you were in grade 7, 13 years old, I was very curious to know what that song was about.
So the song name was actually Save Me.
Yes.
And I'd actually gone to my music teacher in school because obviously I was at that point in my life where I was like, no, I can't tell anyone that I sing. No one can know, you know. So I went to my music teacher and I was like, look, I did this thing. And she was like, wow, that's actually not a bad thing. And she actually introduced me to my first producer, Andre de Jager from Bloem. And I went into the studio and that was that. But Save Me was about the sort of need to escape my own mind and sort of a request for someone to help me get out of that, right? Because when you're in grade 7, how do you help yourself out of that space? So Save Me was basically talking about how can I become a better person, how can I escape sort of the darkness that we all know we've experienced at some point in our life. So that's what Save Me was about. It's quite deep for 13 years old, actually.
Comment on that. That's very deep for 13-year-olds. Very impressive.
Sorry, I would love to tell you it was happy clappy, maar it was toe nou nie.
Jy praat van artists waarna jy luister. Who's your favorite?
LP, hand down. LP, literally LP.
Net LP?
Net LP.
Ek ken nie LP nie.
I know it's a problem. More people need to listen to LP. No, but LP for me, as an artist, as a songwriter, and as a person, is just it's mesmerizing. What she does.
Wow. Jy sê as a person.
Ja.
Van wanneer af is dit nodig dat musikante oulike mense is? Hier was nou al mense hier wat ons baie mooi oor praat, maar dan as hulle van die lug af is hulle prima donnas. Van wanneer af is dit nodig dat dit nou belangrik is om ordentlike mense te wees as jy musiek maak?
I mean, I don't think I'm too much of a bad person. I mean, there's the music and then there's the person, right? And I think sometimes people forget that there's an artist, but then there's also the person behind the artist. And sometimes they connect and sometimes they don't. So sometimes what you see is not what you get, but sometimes what you see is what you get. And for me as an artist, it's really important that when people listen to my music, that they're like, that they feel that they know me. That's important, right? I want my fans and I want people who listen to my music to be like, yeah, I assume the way she sings is the way she is in person. I want the artist and the person to correlate. So for me, that's how it is, but I can't say that that's how it is for everyone. The industry is tough. Dis maar rof daar buite.
Almal maar 'n maskertjie op.
Yeah, and we actually spoke about that yesterday, about, you as an artist, very often people assume certain things about you, or they create this image in their head, what they think you're like, until they meet you at a braai or somewhere, and that's like a little bit removed from what they thought, and sometimes you disappoint them because it's not the image that they have in their head, and sometimes you surprise them.
Well, excuse if I disappoint them, but I try to be a pretty all right human being outside of my music. So I hope that's not the case. Goodness, I hope people meet me and they're like, that was all right. Not so bad, me.
It boils down to perceptions.
Yes.
Dat mense maak aannames. I mean, you've obviously had to deal with that through your life in any case.
Yeah, I think especially with my hearing impairment, I think that would be a thing. Sort of like, oh yeah, I want to be a singer. And people were like, girl, you deaf. How you going to be a singer? Like, come on, stop it now. So that's definitely an assumption that people have made. And I think that pretty much would be the only assumption. Ek's 'n baie eerlike, loud mens. We blame it on my hearing, but I'm also just Portuguese. We're just loud. We're just, it's not even the hearing that we blame it on. It's just...
Maar jy's 100% Suid-Afrikaans, Portugees in Bloemfontein.
Ja, nee.
Daar's niks meer Afrikaans. Ja. Zeker, maar maak Engels, is ons weet jy's eintlik Afrikaans.
Carla, I do wonder, because you just mentioned the hearing impairment and stuff. Quickly tell us about that.
So I have a lisp, if you haven't noticed. And my mom and them were like, oh no, our child has a lisp, we should probably take her to speech therapy. I hated it, absolutely hated it. No hate to them, they do important work, but I personally was like, no, because there was a little snake on the page, and then you have to say an S until she stops as she follows the snake. So then you're sitting there like... En dan doen jy dit nie eers reg nie. So then that speech therapist actually said to my mom, you should probably get your daughter tested for hearing. And with my parents being second-generation immigrant, they were like, cool, whatever the doctor says, we'll do that. And we went to the hearing doctor, and he was like, you're deaf. You've got...
It's not my so.
Excuse, yeah.
That's not my so.
So I was born with a hearing impairment. We found out that it was from birth. It wasn't something that had happened after birth. And originally it was about a 5 to 10% hearing loss, and currently it's about 20 to 30% hearing loss. So it's getting worse. No worries.
Ja, maar daar's nog baie oor. Daar's nog baie oor.
Ja, there's still a whole 30%, guys. It's all good.
Vertel vir my oor die musiek wat jy skryf. I mean, your development as an artist. Because I get the feeling that emotions are very central in your work. That sharing emotions and feelings. You say if someone just feels something when they listen to your work, then it's a success.
Yeah.
That's central to your work.
Yeah, I think that's what music is, right? I think that's why music is as powerful as it is, because it makes us feel. Whether it's good or bad, or whether you're angry, whether you're sad, whether you're happy, we're always feeling something. If it's good quality music, you're going to feel something. I mean, even doof doof skrr skrr, mense gaan iets voel. En mense gaan tekkie wil squeak of iets sien.
Nou weer Clivey.
So I think for me, I like to write about my experiences or experiences with people that I love, so things that I've observed. And I think I'd be doing myself a disservice if I wasn't honest, lyrically and musically. And I think that's why emotion is such a driving force for me in my music. I want people to listen to my music and go, same. Same.
Yeah.
But I also want people to be like, oh, that was a jam, that was nice, yes. And I think chapter 1 is that shift, because most of my music has been incredibly deep and incredibly emotional, which is not a bad thing. That's still very much part of chapter 1 still.
Daar's altyd 'n geleentheid daarvoor.
But there's sort of an adjustment to be like, no worries, guys, I am happy sometimes. Yeah, the glimpse of that. So I think chapter 1, ironically, is even more honest than the rest of my music, in the sense that it creates a space of more than just sadness. It creates all these different emotions. And that's what I want. I want people to listen to chapter 1 and be like, wow, that was a roller coaster, let's do it again. And that's important for me. I think when people listen to my music and they're like, shoo, then I've done what I've come to do.
Carla, jy is so sprankelend, 'n mens kan nie anders as om net gemotiveerd te raak en meegesleer te raak nie. It's a lot of Afrikaans big words. Vol dit wat. Sprankelend, motiveerd
I was worried about that. I was like, please don't use big Afrikaans words.
It's basically saying you're inspiring us.
Ja. So met ander woorde, baie dankie dat jy hier is. Dat ons by jou kon kuier. Jy gaan nou vir ons sing. Wat gaan jy vir ons sing?
I'm going to sing the first single we dropped from chapter 1 called When You're Ready.
When You're Ready. I think we'll be ready. I don't know if we are ready, honestly. Ons het so 'n bietjie nou daarvan gehoor toe sy na die gitaar gekyk het of hy werk en so. Ek kan nie wag nie. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Carla Franco. Dis nou nogal iemand om dop te hou. As jy lus is om ietsie nuuts te luister waaraan jy nooit voorheen geluister het nie, onthou Carla Franco. Ons gaan nou gaan ons hier luister na 'n liedjie van haar